Okay, and we're live. Good evening. This is a few of the members of the GEG Louisiana group, and we're just here talking about some of the Google updates that have hit this school year. And so first we want to welcome our guest, Aaron. And Aaron, I'll let you introduce yourself.
Cool. Yeah, I'm Aaron Swoboda, and I am the content director for Synergize, which is a company that specializes in Google Apps training. We develop a product that it's actually a Chrome extension that has interactive video trainings. So I'm responsible for making sure that our content is up to date. I write the content. The reason I got that job is because I was a Google certified trainer and a Google certified innovator, I suppose is the word now. But I was also, before taking my job at Synergize, I was an instructional coach for 4 years and then a classroom teacher for 15 years prior to that. And with my background in curriculum and instruction, with my master's degree, they wanted somebody who understood education, so they hired me. That was the avenue to get me down to New Orleans, so that's why I came here. But I also, so it's my job, I sit there, I have the Google Apps update alerts, which, by the way, I have to, maybe I'll just put this on the Google Plus page about, if you can set that up to get that little email to tell you what's new in Google Apps, that's how I know what's new in Google Apps. Is I get an email, usually it's about 7 o'clock at night, and I say, I wonder how Google is defining my day tomorrow, and see what's new, and then that's the way I start my day, is to figure out the new tool and then to write a blog post about it and then inundate all the Google Plus pages I can find. But there's been a lot of cool things that have come out, especially over this summer. And it was a couple weeks ago where it was like, here's everything we've been working on for 6 months, and here, blah, all in one. So that was kind of fun. So you want me to talk about some of the features I like, or did you want to go on to more introductions? Or
well, let me let Nate say hello.
Don't worry about me.
Introduce yourself, Nate. Not everybody knows who you are.
Okay, so I'm Nate Kellogg. I'm part of the GEG Louisiana group as well. I'm working with Marcy, and I'm the director of personalized learning for Renew Schools here in New Orleans. So I oversee our technology integration and blended learning initiatives and personalized learning initiatives. And I'm also a Google certified trainer as well, like I think our whole group is. So yeah, that's me.
And just for those who don't know me, I'm Marcy. I work right outside of the city. I'm at a Catholic school where I teach computer to 4th through 8th grade, and I am the technology department, so I get to play with Google tools a lot all day. And Aaron, I'm going to throw it over to you. If you'll share with us maybe some of your favorite updates that have hit. I know it's been a lot just in a couple months.
Well, one of the things that I was actually, it surprised me I got so excited about it, because before the school I was at, we were kind of early iPad adopters before we kind of started embracing Google Apps. And as you well know, early days iPad and Google Apps did not play well at all. But I've been watching the evolution of the iOS apps, and now I would feel comfortable doing most things on my iPad in Google, and it's really like about time. But so I mean, just like I said, just simple things like just all the features. It's very seamless now. It used to be that you have to go, if you really wanted the features, you had to go to the desktop version and kind of, MacGyver your way through it. But now the features are there. But as I write content for those, I'm seeing there are still a lot of limitations on spreadsheets, but it's far better than it ever was. So that's some of the things that I really dig. On the apps themselves, let me think. One that comes to mind in Google Docs is the ability to prevent printing, sharing, and downloading. And when I was talking with Stacy Beamer, who is a trainer and innovator in Iowa, she brought it to me as like, here's the big thing for teachers there, is that especially SPED teachers. I mean, I think we talked in Hangout before. It's like, how many times has a principal come to the staff and said, don't leave the IEPs laying on your desk or in the printer or whatever. So now that can go out. People can't download it. People can't share it. It's just view only, and it's a lot more secure. That's pretty cool. Another big deal is, I mean, we all knew the revision history was there. Now when you go into a collaborative document and you see, hey, there are new changes, it's like, all right, cool. It's like going to your Facebook page and seeing that you have notifications. Otherwise, when you go to your Facebook page and don't see anything, it's like, nah, okay, I'm moving on. So it's kind of nice to see what those changes are, and you can scroll through each change, and I can see what Marcy did, I can see what Nate did, so that's pretty cool. Let's see here, some other ones. Boy, those are the ones that stick out right now. Of course, I know Classroom is going to be a conversation, but that has really gotten a lot of new features over just right at the beginning of the school year, which is really cool. I will switch over to, if you're an admin, or if we all know a domain admin somewhere, but the ability to whitelist domains. So if my school we just share within our school, and Nate's school only shares within theirs, and Marcy, we can go to our administrators and say, hey, it's okay, clear, Marcy's domain, clear Nate's domain. Or some schools have where the teachers are on one domain and the students are on another, and so that makes sharing kind of hard sometimes, depending on how they have things set up. So now they can whitelist those domains, but it really benefits Classroom a lot, because Classroom, you had to be on the same domain, and now you can say this one's okay, and so now I can collaborate with teachers, can collaborate with students in the same building, or we could do it across the state, across the country, whatever.
And you can go global now.
Yeah.
It's going to open up the global possibility. We're actually whitelisting a school in Hong Kong to do video blogging back and forth between the kids. It's going to make it a nicer interface for us than the way we did it last year. So it's really smooth.
The other big thing, again, for admin domains is the ability to whitelist YouTube content. YouTube for Schools. I know somebody asked a question about YouTube for Schools on the GEG page, and I saw Nate had taken care of it, so I just read through it. But I mean, it's that the ability to now whitelist, because YouTube for Schools really, the YouTube EDU thing kind of was bad. It played like crazy mess with our filter back where I came from, and now you can just say these videos are fine. You can allow teachers to say these videos are fine, so it doesn't have to be just your IT person. You can let teachers be the professionals that they are and say, I would show this to my kids, and if so, so that's really cool. There's some really cool admin features in there. And of course, everything's getting the material design thing with Google. If you haven't played around with the new Forms, that's a new experience. Forms looks a little bit different if you've tried the new Forms. Just be a heads up that add-ons don't work with the new Forms just yet. So those are some things that come to my mind right now. I've been yammering, so if something else comes up, I'll chime in. So
yeah, and there's a good plug for the GEG group. I mean, that was one of our members. If you're not a member, of course, if you're watching this, that's an easy way to find out, hey, what are people doing about YouTube? We've been struggling with that issue for months. We were really excited when that came out, and that's been it's been really successful for us at Renew, because we can let teachers across the entire network say, you know what, this video is fine. I want my kids to be able to watch this, and we don't. The decentralization of control is really fantastic. So.
Nate, do you have any favorites that have hit this year so far?
Yeah, I mean, like Aaron was saying, the release of all the changes in September were pretty exciting, and then there were a number of them. The senior changes I do think is great, because I think it's much easier for anyone who's not that familiar with Google Docs to say, oh, I can see who made what changes. It's not just that it's tracking it generally, but you can actually see who, which is great. Voice typing, I think, is fantastic. That's a really cool change. It's a really simple thing. It's very effective. It seems to work really well. It's not clunky like Siri was initially, kind of thing. It works really well. Another feature that I've enjoyed using is the Explore in Sheets, where it automatically makes these little graphs for you. It's, if you're someone who's not that familiar with Excel, or you don't typically make charts like I don't, it's pretty awesome to be able to just click that button and see what's available. Oh, here's a cool chart that I can use to show right now. I don't need to decide X and Y axes and make that happen. It'll just pop up for me. And also they did some updates to templates in general, which I haven't explored very much with, but I've heard some people using for docs, sheets, and slides. But also the themes in slides, that's like a much needed, thank God they updated that change. Although I am a big fan of Slide Carnival for slide examples. They're free. You can download the templates. But that was a big update for Google. They needed to make that happen. So those are the ones that I was excited about. And also the classroom ones, Marcy, which I think you're going to get into. But lots of big changes.
Well, that's a good segue. Classroom's really gotten a lot of love and attention since we came back to school. I think my favorite is still the Share to Classroom extension that came out. Just the ability to be able to push out a website very quickly to the kids. It's very effective. I don't have the fastest network at school, and it still just sends it right on out. I know that at ISTE, when we saw that at the party, there was kind of a collective gasp in the room from the teachers when they showed us, they demoed it to us, and then we kind of had to wait for it to come out. And so that one's probably still one of my favorites. I'm excited about whitelisting because it's opening up opportunities for collaboration. I think we're talking about having kids peer edit papers from other schools instead of just peer editing within the classroom. So that's going to open up a lot of opportunities. Hopefully teachers will be able to get their domain admins to open up, fellow schools in the area or schools that they know people at, and that won't be a barrier. Aaron, what's your favorite one so far from Classroom this year?
Well, one that that really comes to mind is one I was begging for. It made sense to me from the beginning to have it in there. That not that I'm, not that I should be a developer by anybody's standpoint, but it never made sense to me that, okay, if you can make an assignment, it should fill your Google Calendar. It just made sense to me that if I'm a teacher and I assign something, it should fill the kid's Google Calendar. And when I talked to Jen Holland, one of the project managers of that, she was like, yeah, it's coming, don't worry. He said, but we're going slow because we want everybody to use this. And I was like, yeah, okay. It does make sense the way they're implementing it. But finally, that just came out, last week, that now it does. It fills your Google Calendar. You have a classroom calendar, and it fills your own Google Calendar. I totally dig that one. Of course, then just 2 days ago, I think, or was it yesterday, time flies by, but it's the integration of Google Forms now, is that you can add to your Google Forms. So if you want to make a quiz, you can put it on Classroom. When the kids submit their responses, then it marks the assignment as done. And of course, then you can use all the nice add-ons like I just wrote a blog post today on Form Limiter that if you just want to shut the form down at a specific date or time, you can shut it down. You can use the add-on Flubaroo to automatically grade it. So there's going to be a lot of teachers who are going to be really excited about that Forms integration. But the calendar one was way cool.
And to me, I was talking to a teacher, I was helping them, she said, what's this calendar thing? And I said, look, here it is. I said, this is going to really be a good chance, if you're not using calendar with kids, to teach kids that part of the workflow. Because one of the things I find is that kids are great at playing video games and all those other things, but they're not so great all the time at developing a workflow that helps them to complete their tasks in a timely manner. So I'm excited because I think that may push some teachers into, well, hey, if this feature's here anyway, let's really get them into using this calendar. Forms actually just went live for me this morning because I was playing with it last night. I saw that it was out and it wasn't working for me till this morning. It's nice because from my end, sometimes I'm working with teachers who aren't as comfortable with tech, and I knew the workaround to go grab the link and throw it in as a link, but a lot of times with teachers I have to really kind of work with them on that, so that one's really going to be nice for teachers.
Well, the other one people are really excited about is, when Classroom came out, and it's still not a learning management system, and until it really becomes a learning management system, I think we all have the background to say, no, it is not like a Moodle. Not yet. Is it going there? Probably, but it's not there yet because there's certain things you can't do with it. oh gosh, I just lost it because I went off on the learning management system part of things. But just well, oh, the discussion board part of it, that's what it is. I mean, now you can actually ask a question, people can respond to the question, so there's that added little, post a question thing. So that's
Yeah,
really big.
that's a great one. That's one that I think is really exciting for teachers who are sort of, I'm finding who are a little bit hesitant to let the control of their normal class go into the digital world and sort of being able to say, well, if the students are going to interact digitally, how are they going to do that? This is kind of that controlled way of having a back channel or having some sort of collaborative meeting space for the students to have a discussion, which I think is great. And it makes total sense. It's really easy to add that in instead of clicking assignment. You're just clicking question. But you can also grade individual responses. You can choose the control you want. So if you want to limit it to just, I want to see the answers, not the other kids, you can do that to start. So teachers can kind of get their feet wet, decide how they like it, and maybe open up more. I think that's fantastic too.
Well, classroom is one of those things. We talked about teachers who are not very tech proficient, or they're kind of scared of it or whatever. Especially Google. I think Classroom is the easiest Google product that there is. I think it's even easier than Docs. I mean, it's intuitive for teachers, and the teachers I've worked with in the past when Classroom first came out that weren't using Google Docs started using it a lot more because everything worked. Everything worked. That was the big deal, is that it just worked. You didn't have to do workarounds. You didn't have to do this, that, or the other. It works well for them. So there was a well, yeah, Marcy, you were going to say something, so.
Oh, no, you're okay.
No, that's all right. That's all right.
No, I was just going to say, I have teachers that are really excited to take that question feature and use it as a bell ringer into the class or an exit ticket out the door. And I definitely agree with what you said, that they've made it easy. Teachers who weren't always comfortable in techie can just grab it and use all the Google products tied together. They don't have to worry about being in Drive and organizing folders and sharing things out. And so that's made teachers a little more willing to just jump in and kind of play with it. So definitely those things.
Yeah, it was a really smart play to make it that way. I mean, I remember reading about it when they were first talking about it. It was like, it's not for people that are really advanced. It's not the most exciting thing. It's made for teachers that aren't in that space yet, and it's made to be really simple.
The exciting thing for me was when we also had an initiative for it was a formative assessment professional development series that we're doing. It was Keeping Learning on Track that NWA puts out, and part of that is using comment-only grading. And so there was a lot of people who were kind of skeptical about comments-only grading. And when they started using Classroom, they started using Google Docs, and the kids had their Chromebooks, and then they saw that comment feature, and then they saw the power of comment-only grading, and they saw, wow, this is easy. I mean, I had a teacher who was, was very resistant to most PD things, and he could not get enough of Classroom and Google Docs and Chromebooks because it all made sense to him and it worked, and he used those initiatives. So that was exciting to see him take a step forward, even late in his career, because he just retired at the end of last year. But it was really exciting to see him excited about that. So yeah, they're starting to do things pretty well there.
And even, I think, the change with the API stuff, I mean, seeing roster sync being made, that was a huge deal for us, because instead of having to have a teacher say, okay, well, you can do this, but you're going to have the kids go here, and then they're going to have to enter this code, so you should write it on the board, and where did you find the code, and oh, I missed it. Instead, we said to teachers, go to this website, here are your classes. All the kids are there. You don't have to do anything. And I think that any of those barriers you can remove make a huge difference in getting sort of the late adopters, the laggards on board to say, well, I guess I'll give it a try. And then once they're in there and they see it happening, then it's, they're sold. They're like, great, I totally can use this. But that was a huge change as well.
For me, it's been, as a teacher, my teacher job, it's been nice to be able to just have everything in one place. I used to walk out with all the paper and all of these different parts, and we're not always one-to-one, but sometimes a class has access to a whole group of tablets so we can use it. And that's been a beautiful thing, to be able to go stuck in an airport for 4 hours. Great, I'm going to put my feet up, I'm going to open up my laptop, and I'm going to sit here and I'm going to grade papers. That has really made it easy, and that's one of the things that I show teachers when I'm showing them Classroom. Let me show you what you can do. Anywhere you can connect, even if it's from your iPad, you can start looking at work and checking things out, and you're not off the grid. For those of us who travel sometimes during the school year for work, it's also nice to be able to check in with your kids and to be able to answer questions even though you're gone for a few days. So that's been powerful for my kids because they don't feel like I left. It also lets me manage group work. You know, my kids are doing different projects all at the same time around the room. I'd probably be insane trying to manage all the paper and work if I didn't have something like Classroom. And a lot of schools that I know in our area, especially the private schools, aren't using a big LMS. And so Google Classroom was a great place for us to be able to do some of those features in a very simple manner.
Well, I tell you, you mentioned the well, as we're talking Classroom, you mentioned earlier about the share to Classroom, and you know, obviously it's an extension in Chrome, but it's also on your phone. That you know, if you have an iPhone, you can add it there. So if you see a website when you're in the airport, and it's like my kids need that share to Classroom, boom, it's there. You know, a tablet or whatever. I think that's awesome as well. You know, and Nate mentioned, just I'm going to give Google Sheets a little bit of love as well. You know, some updates that came. He mentioned the Explore feature, which the thing I like about it, I'm with you. I don't know how to graph things really well at all. I mean, it's nice. Hey, wow, there's some graphs. I always struggled with that, but now it's also really cool that when you change the data, those graphs change right away. So that's really pretty cool. But then the other thing that people really got geeked out over was the partial formatting in the cells. So you can now, not everything has to be all bold or all normal plain text. You can bold one letter if you want to and make another letter red, and you can do, so people really got excited about that, so it must be a really cool feature. So that's also some cool things that have been going on with Sheets.
Yeah, one other thing with Classroom that I've noticed, the integration with the API has also allowed for other platforms to be able to integrate easily with Classroom. So I've seen some of our teachers who use Quizlet a lot to be able to click the Classroom button on Quizlet and just say, I want to assign this to this class. And instead of having to grab a link, connect it, put it in, all that, it's just there's a button there. And just like with social media, if I want to share, if I want to send an email of this article, or if I want to post a tweet of it, I can now also just say, post this to my Classroom, which I think is a great feature as well, and really going to open up how Classroom can become more of an LMS, which it seems like it's moving in that direction. Although we still don't have, you know, many features. One of which I think is groups, which would be great, Marcy, for being able to say, like, within my class, here are the groups. That's one thing I think it is missing that probably is coming down the pipeline. But
well, I've learned to just navigate around by, I don't get really stressed about the done and not done. You know, if a kid's not in that group, it's just not done. But for some teachers, that stresses them out.
Yeah.
The other thing, I think it'll hit people more next year, unless they're the early adopters like me who were, you know, really trying Classroom out last year, the ability to reuse a post, to be able to pull something you did last year but still go in and edit it, and so that you can make those changes that you wish you'd done last year and not have to reset everything all over again. That's going to hit next year for most people probably.
That was one where I had to use a lot of set statements before, where it's like, you know, I'm here to help you, but I feel for you. That's the empathy part. But then the truth is, I'm sorry, you can't. It's just you got to start over. Now you don't have to start over. You're right, because that was one of the, again, things just fed all the way to the bottom. It's like I'm gonna have to have my kids scroll. It's just like now it's really pretty easy.
And they can bring things to the top, which was a big thing for some people, to take something and bring it back up as things get, you know, down into the feed.
Yeah, and I think the whole being able to reuse a post also, again, they're really focused on the people that aren't tech savvy, that aren't looking to be really into tech. If you're used to being pushed, having tech pushed on you, you know that it changes every year. You know, I mean, like, sure, we used that Moto 3 years ago. Why aren't we using it anymore? You know, that kind of thing. And when those kinds of moves say, hey, we're going to be around for a little bit. We want you to stay with this, and we're going to make it easy for you to continue with it and not try to do something new, which I think is really smart.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Oh, yeah, absolutely. It threw my kids a little bit when they started moving things. If you're on, you know, a browser base to that one tab versus the two, they're like, wait a minute, stuff moved. And then I also point out, you know, it says add when they hit the button to put in work, but create is tucked in under it. So that was a little bit of a learning curve for the kids, because when it changed, they're like, wait, I know where everything is, and now it's gone. But it's a great opportunity for us to remind our kids we don't live in a world where the software is going to stay the same. So you just have to kind of take a moment and play when something new comes up.
Amen.
Anybody have any last-minute favorites they want to throw out?
I don't know. You know, I think we've talked a lot about you know, the nuts and bolts of these things, and I think the longer conversation sometime maybe, whether it's online like this or we all, whoever can from the GEG, get together at, you know, a coffee shop or something, is to talk about what Nate was talking about earlier. It's, okay, how to use this stuff, you know, for meaningful instruction. And so it's a lot of blog posts that I've been writing is, I took Marcia Tate's Worksheets Don't Grow Dendrites, you know, 20 strategies that engage the brain, and I link Google tools with those. So it's always about, okay, how do I use Google for formative assessment? How do I use it for, you know, engaging the brain? How do I use it for this? So, and that's sometimes it's easy to get hung up on the nuts and bolts, and here's a really cool feature, but then to explain to teachers, and here's what it will do for your students, not just the ease of your job, but the power that's gonna come out from the kids. So,
Yeah,
like I
and
said, that's another hangout.
And that becomes a byproduct of just getting them in. Sometimes that first step is just to get them in and trying it, and then they start to see those parts and pieces and the things click into place for their kids. Yep. And speaking of an in-person, I don't have the date in front of me, but it's in the GEG Louisiana page on Google+. We are planning an in-person hangout after the Google Summit coming up next month in Metairie, right outside of New Orleans. And places to be determined, but we're going to have everybody gather somewhere who's interested and be able to chat and meet and share ideas and tips. And
November 7th, I believe, is the date.
Thank you, Nate. Good. And we're looking for some place pretty close to the school, so we're going to get a firm location out and updated in GEG as soon as we can.
Cool.
So any last thoughts y'all want to add?
Join the GEG.
Yeah.
And don't hesitate, even if you're not from Louisiana, to hop in. And please ask questions. It's the only way we all learn.
Absolutely.
So, Aaron, we appreciate you jumping in with us tonight to share this.
No problem.
Night, everybody.
My pleasure.
All right. Bye, guys.